this is Callimara here, and no, it's not calamari. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new to the pond, go ahead and take a dive. You might like it here. So this video is a bit different from the kind of content I usually do, but recently I feel like I haven't really been able to get as much content out as I used to, at least not regularly. And a lot of that has a lot to do with what I have to do in real life now that I'm in medical school. And it might sound silly, but even though I'm doing something that I've always dreamed of doing and is something that I'm very passionate about, I still feel guilty about not fulfilling my YouTube obligations, which is as equally important to me. So I thought maybe I could do a blend of both by making a little vlog of what I've been actually up to all this time when I vanish off of social media with no notice. You guys might know that I'm not the kind of YouTuber who shares a lot of my life. I don't usually indulge a lot about myself other than what is relevant for my redesigns and stories and stuff. But you know, I figured I could take a small leap of faith. And here we are. So today we are at microbiology lab. So we're gonna be playing around with some bacteria, and we're gonna fill in this fun little worksheet here to capture the kinds of bacteria we managed to stain. And this is what we're gonna be doing basically. My first time staining bacteria. Exciting. And who says medicine and art don't mix? And now we're just walking into the microbiology lab. We don't always get to bring our phones, usually only certain labs allow it. And this is my friend Fika, by the way. Usually only labs where we have to take photos and draw allow us to take our phones in, and this is one of them. And here is our microbiology professor telling us what strains of bacteria we're working with. And today we have Escherichia coli, Streptococcus pneumoniae, Staphylococcus aureus, and a mix of Escherichia coli and Staphylococcus. And he also wastes no time in telling us about how we're going to be examined for our practical exam. Basically, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to stain our own bacteria, and we're gonna have to look at it under a microscope, and we're gonna have to figure out what strain of bacteria it is. Yay! Love that for us.
Okay. Slide.
And now our professor is showing us how it's done. So first things first, you gotta prepare your dipping stick, and just don't forget to swirl your bacteria just in case they've settled at the bottom. Prepare your slide, and don't forget a beaker to dispose of the used dipping stick. You have to be careful when opening the lid. I found that it's very firmly on there, and I accidentally splashed myself with a bit of Staphylococcus aureus, but you know, it's all good. Just make sure you get a good amount of bacteria. Don't be shy with your amount. And our professor said as long as you're still using the same dipping stick, you can double dip as many times as you want. Alright, now that we have our bacteria on our slide, we can either air dry it, but that takes too long, and we have fire, so that's what we're gonna do. So just, you know, very quickly and carefully pass the slide over the fire. Make sure not to hurt yourself doing this, and don't hold it too long over the fire or it will break the glass. Now that our bacteria is properly fixated, we get to stain. We're gonna start off with some crystal violet, which our professor has dropped onto the slide, and we're just gonna swirl it around, make sure it has properly covered the surface area of where we swiped our bacteria. And then we're gonna leave this on for 1 minute or 60 seconds, so it's important that we keep a timer here. And when you're just a bystander watching it, it feels like forever, but once you're actually over there holding the slide, it flies by in a blink of an eye, especially when you're just having fun swirling the dye around. And once it's ready, what you gotta do here is just make sure you keep the water pressure low and pass it on very carefully across the slide, because you don't want to accidentally wash off the bacteria you just fixated on there. And after that, we're gonna go in with some iodine, which we are also going to leave for another 60 seconds. So just drop it on, same procedure as your crystal violet, and set your timer for another minute. Alright, time to wash off the iodine. Once again, just very carefully rinse it. You don't want to wipe off the bacteria, which is, I know, counterintuitive usually when you're washing something. And now we finally get to the second to last step, which is our alcohol, which we will use as our decolorizer just until the liquid runs clear to get rid of the excess iodine and crystal violet and allow for the counter stain to stain later on. And then you quickly wash it off because you don't want to accidentally destroy the bacteria. And now comes the last step, which is the safranin, which is our counter stain. It'll fill the bacteria with a really nice, cute pink color. And unlike your crystal violet and iodine, you're only gonna leave the safranin on for 45 seconds before you rinse it off. And congratulations, you've successfully stained some bacteria. Now all you gotta do is leave your slide to air dry, no Bunsen burner this time, and it'll be ready for you to observe under the microscope with a bit of immersion oil. And here's my attempt at staining bacteria. So for the lab, we were divided into groups of 4, and this is my friend recording me, so let's see how I go. So for my bacteria, I'll be staining the Staphylococcus aureus, which is, well, I'll be splashed with later on, but as you can see here, I think this is when it happens actually. I'm just preparing my dipstick, and I know what's coming. I don't know if it's noticeable on camera though, but yeah. Preparing my dipstick, and then I was saying to my friend here that we should label this in case we want to double dip with it, and they were all like, yeah, that's a good idea. So I take it out. I asked my friend for one of the labels that we prepared so I can label my dipstick. And then I'm gonna open my cap here, and then it splashed on me, so I don't think you see it, but it happened. Anyway, I put my dipstick in, and then when it's in there, I remember that I didn't swirl it. So I think that was when it happened. I don't know. There could have been multiple points where I was splashed with it. And I'll just be straight up with you. This stain didn't go well. I think it was because I forgot to swirl the bacteria, so I might not have caught it on my dipstick, because it was just blank. Or, I don't know, maybe I rinsed it too hard too. You'll see later on. It was an attempt. An attempt was made. But, you know, I tried my best. This is what the dipsticks look like, by the way. It's not like a little spoon. It's actually, like donut shaped. It's empty in the middle. And I guess you just gotta blow little bacteria bubbles with it. I tried to be generous with my bacteria amount because I wanted a good chance that I would get something, but as I've already told you, I didn't get any with this attempt, but I do get it on my second attempt. So I guess the key is to not rinse too much, and also to make sure you remember to swirl your vial, because I think that makes a big difference. And now we get a bit of a treat because we get to commit arson. Yay! So this is actually my favorite part of gram staining bacteria, is when you just get to kind of wave the slide over the fire and you just watch it dry. I don't know, it's just really fun. The key here is to make sure that your slide is completely dry, because you don't want to accidentally have the bacteria sliding around everywhere when you rinse it. And when you're done, just plop the lid on there and move on with your day. For technical reasons, we were instructed to do the staining over the sink, and this is probably something you should keep in mind as well when you're using labs like this. If you want to keep everything nice and tidy, is to make sure that you don't just stain anywhere you want willy-nilly, and make sure to wipe your bench down after every bacterial swab so you don't contaminate your slides. Now on with the dyeing, or staining, I guess I should say. Am I putting a copious amount, an excessive amount on there? Yes, but also I covered a very large area of my slide with bacteria, and I just wanted to make sure that the entire perimeter was stained. And we're just gonna wait here for 1 minute, which luckily you don't have to with the power of editing. And there we are, ready for the iodine stain, which I will also be putting an excessive amount of, naturally. And once again, we're gonna be waiting for another minute. So I think this is potentially where it all went wrong for me. If you watch me rinse it, you can see that I hold it under the water for just way too long. I definitely shouldn't have done this. I definitely just completely washed away all the bacteria I've affixed on there. But obviously past Callie was completely oblivious to this, so she's just gonna keep trucking on with the decolorizer. And again, I think I definitely rinsed it too much, and I used too strong of a water pressure on it. And honestly, watching this back, it makes complete sense why my bacteria did not show up at all.
Farewell, sweet cookie cats. Always remember the time we spent together.
Alright, pop quiz. How long do we leave the saffronin on for? Okay, time's up. If you guessed 45 seconds, congrats! You would have scored 1 point on the practical exam. And yeah, that's about it. That wraps up my catastrophic first attempt at gram staining bacteria. You can see here me trying to do it properly this time by swirling the vial first, and the second attempt actually worked out, so, you know, learn from my mistakes. Do as I say, not as I do. And this is me with one of our dried slides ready for examination under the microscope. I've just dropped some immersion oil onto it so that I could actually get high definition under the microscope there. I'm just spreading it around like I did with the dye, and then I'm just plopping it onto our very nice microscope here. And fun fact, I am actually wearing contacts that day, and I don't know why I did that. I knew I had microbiology lab, and I knew we were going to be playing around with bacteria. And the thing is, I have very bad eyesight, so I'm nearsighted, and therefore when I have to look into the microscope, which already compensates for nearsightedness, I just get a massive headache because my contacts and the microscope just don't mix. Technically, you can adjust for the vision as well, but I did not think to do that for some reason. So I've just had to deal with it because, you know, hindsight is 20/20, but my vision is not. It also doesn't help that I was probably looking at a blank slide here because I washed off all of my bacteria. But luckily, one of our slides was successfully stained, and this is what it looks like. Pretty cool, right? So these are how our slides came out. Technically there are 4, but one of them is just a mix of 2 of these. But essentially on the left over there you have our Streptococcus pneumoniae, and you can tell that it is Streptococcus because of the way it's distributed. It kind of looks stringy, and if you really squint you can see that the bacteria is shaped like a circle, so they're round, which is how it got its name coccus. And technically they are diploid bacteria, meaning they come in pairs, they're not singular. But when they clump together like that, they tend to form a chain, which is why they're called streptococcus, which strepto basically means chain, and it just means that they are round and they form a chain, and these are the guys that will cause pneumonia. As for the guy in the middle there, that is our Staphylococcus aureus, the one that splashed my lab coat, and we can tell that it is Staphylococcus because once again it is circular in shape, and this one actually forms grape clusters. So they kind of look like a bunch of grapes like clumped together, and you can see how different they are when they group together. They kind of tend to form more like clumps, whereas the Streptococcus forms like strings, and that's how you can tell them apart. And finally, we have the most distinct sample of them all, which is our Escherichia coli, which is our gram-negative bacteria. So those other 2, the purple guys, those are our gram-positives, and Escherichia coli is our gram-negative bacteria. And the reason that it's pink is because technically our crystal violet dye can only stain the teichoic acid in the cell wall, which is part of the peptidoglycan layer, which is it's a specific protein that gram-positive bacteria have in their cell wall because it has a thicker cell wall compared to our gram-negative, whereas our gram-negative has a thin cell wall which has a thin peptidoglycan layer, but also a layer of lipopolysaccharides over it, which is just to say it's like a sheer layer of fat on top, which stops our crystal violet from actually dyeing the peptidoglycan layer underneath it, and that's why it instead stains pink. Aside from the gram differentiation, you can also see that it is shaped very distinctly, unlike our 2 other samples, which were balls. Our Escherichia coli is shaped like a rod, and that's why it's also classified as a type of bacillus bacteria. And now here I am working on my little worksheet. I really wish I had recorded over my paper so you could actually see the art process, because this was in fact also a speed draw because we had to hand draw what we saw in the microscope on our slides. This is kind of similar to what we do for histology class, where we would usually also draw what we saw on our slides and label it accordingly. The difference though is that for our histology class, we are usually allowed to do it digitally, which of course, I always do it digitally, but this was actually quite a nice change, and I wish I had the forethought to record overhead so that this video, despite it being like a medical school vlog, could still have a speed draw. But you take what you can get. This section specifically was just me answering some of the short answer questions on the report, and honestly, I'm surprised at how useful my art skills have been for medical school, but not really the other way around, because I've actually gotten an interview question once about if my learning anatomy helps me draw better, and I confidently and very certainly said no, because it really didn't. But art did actually help a lot in medical school, especially with like envisioning spaces and like projecting where things might be under the skin with organs and bones and such. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of just feel like I'm really in my element. And despite the long hours, I'm really happy. And granted, not every day is as exciting as this. We're not always doing super cool experiments and labs every single day, though we do get a lot of practical experience in our curriculum. Most of our time is spent in, lecture halls, learning the theory and then doing a lot of case studies and just kind of a lot of research and reading as well to give us that foundation for our practice moving forward. But today was a particularly interesting day, and I'm really glad that I was able to get it on camera, if for nothing but my own amusement. Once lab was done, I was finally able to have lunch. Of course, I needed coffee. There was a fair going on, I think like independent business fair happening that day, so I just bought whatever was available from the stalls there. I got a salad wrap, which was pretty good, but you'll see in a second when I open the wrap. The wrap was not in fact a wrap, but it had come undone inside of this paper, and well, I still ate it. It was just a challenge to do so and a bit messy to do so. Don't worry, I cleaned that up. After lunch, we had our second lab of the day, which is for pharmacology. For this lab, we were learning about individual responses to medications, specifically diazepam is our test drug today. And we've just done our tests, and now we're learning how to calculate all the different data sets we got. So I didn't record much in this lab because we were working with test animals, which I always kind of get a bit emotional about because, I don't know, I like them too much, but here they are after their hard work. They're a bit sleepy. Great job today, guys. And after all the labs, I still had one more class, which is a general subject that is mandatory for everyone, regardless of faculty, to take. And that lasted for another 2 hours before I was finally able to go home. I just got home, really tired. Had a nice little, That's not very professional beauty guru of me. I've actually taken most of my makeup off already, but I forgot to record it. Still have one more cleanse left to do. And then after this, I'll also wash my face with soap and water. I had really bad skin when I was a teenager, and I don't know why. And also, that light doesn't work. It never does, because why would it, I had really bad skin as a teenager. Right, picking off where I left off. I think it was genetics, or maybe it was like chronic stress or something, but I had to go on Accutane for it, and now my skin is okay. Well, it's mostly because I use this cream now that really helps. Not sponsored or anything, but if you want to sponsor me, I use this one, and it's so good, literally. This is the only product I've ever, I could ever say actually changed my skin and made it better. It stopped me from breaking out constantly. The moment I stop using that, the spots come back in, and it's kind of scary. And this is the cleanser I use. You would have seen it already because it was covering my face. Anyway, that's my vlog. I haven't figured the whole thing out yet, but if you're interested, I'm not gonna say that. No, I'm not like other YouTubers. Anyway, yeah, I'll just make more if I think I want to do more. So I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
I guess I'll just wait till you get home.